She will never tell you this. But the moment you stopped trying to make her attracted to you, something shifted inside her. The moment you stopped chasing validation from her, stopped wondering if you said the right thing, stopped analyzing every text message for hidden meaning, her entire perception of you changed. Not because you became more handsome, not because you suddenly had more money or status, but because you stumbled onto a psychological mechanism that operates below conscious awareness, a mental trick that separates men who struggle with attraction from men who generate it effortlessly. You have been lied to about how attraction works. Every romantic comedy, every dating coach selling you lines and techniques, every friend who told you to just be yourself and show your feelings, they all missed the fundamental truth. Attraction is not rational. It cannot be negotiated. It cannot be earned through effort or good behavior or emotional availability. And the harder you try to create it, the faster you destroy any possibility of it emerging naturally. This is going to be uncomfortable, because what I am about to reveal contradicts everything you have been taught about respect, honesty, and how to treat women. But if you are here, you already know something is wrong with the conventional advice. You already know that being the nice guy, the available guy, the emotionally open guy has not worked. You gave her everything, your time, your attention, your emotional investment, and she gave you nothing in return except confusion and distance. Picture this. You meet someone, the chemistry feels real, conversations flow easily. You start texting regularly, you make plans, you show clear interest, because that is what honest men do, right? You make yourself available because you want her to know you are serious. You respond quickly to her messages because you do not want to play games. You share your feelings because emotional vulnerability is supposed to be attractive. You do everything the right way. And then something shifts. Her responses get slower. She becomes less available. The warmth in her voice changes. Plans become vague. You can feel her pulling away, but you cannot understand why. So you do what seems logical. You try harder. You reach out more. You ask if everything is okay. You reassure her of your interest. You make yourself even more available. And with each attempt to close the distance, she moves further away, until one day she is gone. No explanation that makes sense. No closure. Just the crushing realization that somehow, by doing everything right, you did everything wrong. You have been there, staring at your phone at 2 a.m, replaying every conversation, trying to pinpoint the exact moment it changed, wondering what you said wrong, wondering if you moved too fast or too slow, wondering if you were ever enough. The confusion cuts deeper than the rejection itself because you followed all the rules and still lost. Here is what nobody tells you. Attraction does not respond to effort. It responds to state. Not what you do, but who you are in her perception. And that perception is shaped by psychological mechanisms that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Mechanisms that assess male value not through your words or actions, but through your emotional independence and outcome indifference. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that applies directly to this. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics understood that external validation, including female approval, is not within your control. The moment you need something from someone else to feel complete, you hand them power over your internal state. And that transfer of power is precisely what destroys attraction. Women are biologically wired to assess male value through indirect signals. Not what you claim about yourself, but what your behavior reveals about your options, your confidence, your abundance. When you chase, when you make yourself constantly available, when you seek reassurance or validation, you signal scarcity. You signal that she represents your best option. You signal that your happiness depends on her response. And scarcity in the sexual marketplace registers as low value. This is not manipulation. This is not about playing games or being dishonest. This is about understanding the difference between performative behavior and authentic internal state. The mental trick is not a technique you apply externally. It is an internal shift in how you relate to outcome and validation. Let me give you a real example. There was this guy who met a woman at a social gathering. They connected immediately. Great conversation. shared interests, clear mutual attraction. He got her number. They started texting. He was excited. He made plans for the following weekend. Everything felt promising. But then he made a series of small mistakes that added up. He texted her every day, not because she was texting him first, but because he wanted to maintain momentum. He double-texted when she did not respond quickly. He adjusted his schedule completely around her availability. He posted on social media, hoping she would see it. He mentioned her to his friends. He mentally committed to the outcome before anything had actually developed. 2 weeks in, her energy changed. Responses became sporadic. She cancelled plans last minute. When they did meet up, the dynamic felt different. The attraction that seemed so obvious initially had evaporated. He could not understand what happened. From his perspective, he had done everything right. He showed interest. He was consistent. He made effort. But from her perspective, he had failed a series of unconscious tests. Tests that assessed whether he was a man of options or a man of desperation. Whether his life was full without her or empty awaiting her validation. Whether he had standards and boundaries or whether he would tolerate anything to keep her around. And he failed every single test by making her the center of his emotional universe too quickly. Here is the first key insight. Emotional availability without challenge is perceived as weakness. Not because women want to be treated poorly, but because evolution programmed them to assess male fitness through indirect signals. A man who is too eager, too available, too invested too early, signals that he has limited options, that he does not have other women interested in him, that his value in the sexual marketplace is low. This assessment happens unconsciously. She does not sit down and consciously think these thoughts, but the attraction simply fades. Challenge creates desire. Uncertainty creates obsession. A man who has his own life, his own mission, his own emotional center that does not shift based on her response, presents psychological challenge. He becomes a puzzle to solve, a prize to win. His attention becomes valuable because it is not freely given. His validation becomes meaningful because it is not desperate. This is where most men get stuck. They think this means being cold or distant or playing hard to get. But that is still external behavior. That is still trying to manipulate attraction through technique. The mental trick goes deeper than behavior. It is about genuinely shifting your internal relationship to outcome. The second insight builds on this. Psychological scarcity and emotional independence create magnetic pull, but only when they are authentic. Women have sophisticated detection mechanisms for incongruence. They can sense when you are pretending not to care while secretly obsessing, when you are artificially creating distance while desperately hoping she chases. That kind of performative indifference backfires because the neediness underneath leaks through. True indifference comes from abundance, not abundance of women necessarily, but abundance of purpose, mission, self-worth. When your happiness genuinely does not depend on her response, when you have a life so full that she adds to it rather than completes it, that internal state radiates outward. You stop checking your phone compulsively. You stop analyzing her every word. You stop adjusting your behavior based on her feedback. Not because you are trying to seem indifferent, but because you actually are. This is the Stoic practice, detachment from outcome. You act with virtue and integrity, but you release attachment to results. You express interest if you feel it, but you do not need reciprocation to maintain your internal peace. You make plans, but you do not collapse emotionally if they fall through. You remain emotionally stable regardless of external validation. And paradoxically, this is when attraction spikes. When you stop needing it, it appears. When you stop chasing it, it chases you. Not always. Not with every woman. But with women who are psychologically healthy and attracted to masculine energy. Because centered masculine energy, energy that is self-contained and outcome independent, triggers biological attraction responses. Let me give you another example. There was someone I know who dated a woman for about a month. Things started well, but he noticed the pattern developing. He was always initiating, always planning, always investing more energy. She was responsive but passive, and he recognized the dynamic from past relationships. He was falling into the pursuer role while she settled into being pursued. So he made a conscious decision. He stopped initiating for 1 week, not as a game, not as punishment, but as an experiment to see if she had genuine interest or if she was just enjoying the attention. He filled his week with his own activities, gym, work projects, time with friends. He did not sit around obsessing about whether she would reach out. He genuinely redirected his energy toward his own life. 3 days in, she texted, something casual. He responded but did not try to turn it into a lengthy conversation. 2 days after that, she called, asked what he had been up to, mentioned she was free that weekend if he wanted to get together. The dynamic had shifted. By withdrawing his constant attention, by demonstrating that his emotional state did not depend on her, he had inadvertently increased her investment. This brings us to the third insight. Frame control and outcome indifference are not techniques you apply externally. They are the natural result of a man who has genuinely built a life worth living independent of female validation. Frame control means your reality, your emotional center, remains stable regardless of tests, rejection, or approval. You do not need her to feel good about yourself. You do not need her validation to confirm your worth. You already know your value. Her recognition of it is pleasant but not necessary. High-value men maintain this frame naturally, not because they studied game or learned tricks, but because they have genuine options, genuine purpose, genuine self-respect. When a woman pulls away, they feel the disappointment, but do not spiral into desperation. When a woman tests them, they respond from centered masculinity rather than reactive emotion. When a woman tries to make them jealous or seeks attention from other men, they remain unmoved because their self-worth is not contingent on her exclusive focus. This is the mental trick, not a technique, not a behavior, but a fundamental shift in how you relate to attraction and validation. You stop trying to create attraction and start embodying the internal state that naturally generates it. You stop seeking her approval and start living from self-approval. You stop making her the source of your happiness and start building a life so fulfilling that she becomes an addition rather than the foundation. The Stoics practiced this through daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each morning that he would encounter difficult people, obstacles, disappointments, but none of these external events had the power to disturb his internal peace unless he gave them that power. The same principle applies to attraction. Her response, her interest, her validation, these are external events outside your control. You can influence them through your behavior and energy, but you cannot control them. And the moment you try to control them through excessive effort, you destroy the very thing you are trying to create. Here is what this looks like practically. You meet someone you are attracted to. You express that interest clearly, but without neediness. You ask her out directly, rather than pretending you just want to be friends. If she says yes, you plan something and show up fully present. If she says no, you accept it gracefully and move on without resentment. You do not text her constantly seeking validation. You reach out when you genuinely want to connect, not to maintain artificial momentum. You make plans based on your schedule, inviting her to join your life rather than reorganizing your life around her. When she tests you, and she will test you, you respond from calm centeredness. If she cancels plans, you do not get angry or passive-aggressive. You simply make other plans and let her know she is welcome to reschedule when she has clarity on her availability. If she mentions other men to gauge your reaction, you remain unfazed because you know your value and are not threatened by competition. If she pulls away emotionally, you give her space rather than chasing, because you trust that genuine attraction returns when given room to breathe. This requires genuine work on yourself. You cannot fake this internal state. You have to actually build a life worth living, develop skills, pursue goals, cultivate friendships, create financial stability, maintain physical fitness, engage in activities that challenge and fulfill you. The mental trick only works when it stops being a trick and becomes your authentic reality. The practical application starts with a simple exercise. For the next 48 hours, practice observing your emotional reactions without acting on them. When you feel the urge to text her, pause. Notice the urge, feel it fully. Then ask yourself whether you are reaching out from genuine desire to connect or from anxiety about her interest level. If it is anxiety, do not text. Redirect that energy towards something productive. When you find yourself checking your phone compulsively, notice that behavior. What are you seeking? Validation? Reassurance? Connection? If you are seeking external validation, put the phone down. Go for a walk. Hit the gym. Call a friend. Engage in an activity that reminds you of your value independent of her response. When you feel anger or frustration about her behavior, observe those emotions without judgment. They are natural. They are information about your attachment to outcome. The goal is not to suppress them, but to create space between feeling and reaction. Feel the anger. Acknowledge it. Then choose how to respond from centered masculinity rather than reactive emotion. This practice builds emotional independence. It trains you to source happiness and validation internally rather than externally. And that internal shift changes everything, not just with women, but in every area of life. When you stop needing approval, you become magnetic. When you stop fearing rejection, you become confident. When you stop trying to control outcomes, you become powerful. The transformation happens gradually. You notice yourself less anxious about her response. You find yourself genuinely busy with your own life rather than waiting for her attention. You catch yourself feeling completely fine when she does not text back immediately. You realize days have passed without thinking about whether she is attracted to you because you are focused on becoming someone you respect. And in that internal shift, attraction often emerges naturally. Not because you manipulated it, not because you played games, but because you became the kind of man whose energy is inherently attractive, centered, purposeful, outcome independent, emotionally stable. These qualities trigger biological attraction responses in psychologically healthy women. This does not mean every woman will be attracted to you. Some women are not compatible with your energy. Some women are dealing with their own issues that have nothing to do with you. Some women are simply not available emotionally or circumstantially. And that is fine, because you are not trying to be attractive to every woman. You are building a life and becoming a man that naturally attracts women who align with your values and energy. The mental trick is this: stop trying to make her attracted to you. Start building a life so fulfilling that her attraction becomes irrelevant to your happiness. Paradoxically, that is when attraction appears most reliably, because women are attracted to men who do not need them, who want them, potentially, but do not need them to feel complete, who have their own mission, their own purpose, their own emotional center that remains stable regardless of female validation. This is not about being cold or distant or unavailable. This is about being genuinely full of purpose, full of self-respect, full of emotional stability, and from that fullness, you can engage with women from a place of strength rather than neediness. You can express interest without desperation. You can be vulnerable without being weak. You can pursue without chasing. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, accepting what is within your control and releasing what is not. Your actions, your character, your effort, these are within your control. Her response, her attraction, her choices, these are not. You influence them through your energy and behavior, but you do not control them. And the moment you try to force an outcome through excessive effort, you violate the natural flow of attraction. Attraction is like sleep. The harder you try to force it, the more elusive it becomes. But when you create the right conditions and then let go of attachment to outcome, it emerges naturally. The right conditions are not external techniques. They are internal states: confidence, purpose, emotional independence, self-respect. These qualities cannot be faked long-term. They have to be built through genuine self-development. So the work begins with you, not with learning what to say or how to act, but with becoming someone whose internal state naturally generates attraction. Someone who has built a life worth living, Someone who sources validation internally. Someone who remains centered regardless of external circumstances. Someone who understands that his value is not determined by female approval but by his own standards and character. This journey is not easy. It requires confronting your neediness, your insecurity, your dependence on external validation. It requires building genuine self-worth through action and accomplishment. It requires developing emotional resilience through difficulty and disappointment. It requires letting go of outcome attachment while still pursuing what you want. These are advanced masculine practices that most men never engage with, because the culture has told them that neediness is romantic and emotional, dependence is love. But you know better now. You understand the paradox. The less you need attraction, the more it appears. The less you chase validation, the more it comes to you. The more centered you become in your own value, the more magnetic you become to others. This is not theory. This is observable reality once you shift your internal state. If this resonated with you, I want you to do something. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel, because we are building something here. A community of men committed to truth over comfortable lies. Men willing to do the hard work of genuine self-development rather than chasing shortcuts and techniques. Men who understand that real power comes from internal mastery, not external manipulation. And drop a comment below. Tell me about a time when you stopped chasing and everything shifted. A moment when you let go of outcome and attraction increased. Or tell me about the struggle you are facing right now with neediness and validation seeking. I read every comment. This is a conversation, not a lecture. The path forward is clear. Build a life so fulfilling that female validation becomes a pleasant addition rather than a desperate need. Develop purpose that drives you independent of relationship status. Cultivate emotional resilience that allows you to remain centered through rejection and uncertainty. Practice outcome indifference not as a technique but as a genuine internal state. And watch as attraction begins to emerge naturally from women who recognize and respond to centered masculine energy. This is the mental trick. Not a trick at all, but a fundamental truth about human psychology and attraction dynamics. Stop trying to create it. Start embodying the state that generates it naturally. Stop seeking her approval. Start living from self-approval. Stop making her the source of your happiness. Start building a life so complete that she becomes an addition to something already whole. This is Stoic truth, where men find clarity in a world of confusion, where silence becomes strength and detachment becomes power. Master yourself, master your mind, and everything else follows.